Good day. It's Wednesday, September the 22nd. I'm Martin Gago with Market Radius Research, and today we've got Andre Larente of Diagnos on the call with us. Diagnos that targets early detection of critical health problems based on its Flaire artificial intelligence AI platform. I've got Diagnos on the call for a few reasons. I'm fascinated by AI, artificial intelligence, especially in the healthcare space, where I think it will make a huge difference in helping doctors and other caregivers and healthcare providers diagnose, identify, and treat a wide variety of health issues. I first met Andre, I believe, several times, several years ago. I was intrigued by the technology as in this case, things always take longer than we're hoping to get, and Diagnos seems to be gaining a lot of traction at this point. So I'm looking forward to getting an update on how far things have progressed since those early days. I've lost track with the company, and it's great to get up to speed with where they're at. Remember, this is neither a recommendation nor investment advice. We're here to learn about the company. Andre, thank you very much for joining us today, and let's hear your story.
Well, thank you very much, Martin. Nice to see you again also. Nice to hear your voice and see you. So I'll just jump into it right away. So since the last time we talked was over 2 years ago, actually before the pandemic. And
yes.
Since the pandemic, I mean, our market is really monitoring diabetics around the world. And diabetics were not allowed to go into hospitals and clinics because the COVID virus was very, very difficult on those people, meaning that they were infected much faster, much faster than a normal person. So the last 2 years, well, a year and a half has been extremely difficult, but now things are starting to come back to some kind of normality. So I'm going to tell you what we do. So what we're trying to do is really redefine some of the healthcare analysis that are done on the medical imaging side using artificial intelligence. So before I go on to the solution, so our current price shares about 45 cents. The high for the year was 65. We have cash. We also have a loan from the Quebec government for $2 million for paying 50% of all our marketing and sales expense. We haven't drawn down yet, but we're looking at how we're going to do that going forward. Number of shares, 68 million shares. Market cap, about 34 million. We don't have a lot of debt, $125,000. And very little warrants too. I think there's only 270,000 warrants left. So insiders and family office, we own about 40% of the stock right now. Okay.
All right.
So let me tell you about the solution. So really what we've done is we've actually built a system based on artificial intelligence. And our mission statement is really to detect early detection of any kind of debilitating health issues through the use of AI. But we're starting with the back of the eye. And the reason why we did that is this was our first application in the medical field. And since we've been in this field, we've learned that we can do a lot of other different identification of a lot of other pathologies through the back of the eye. And I'll show you this. So what's AI? AI, it's a bunch of algorithms that are stick together and that can actually do the same thing as a human being when they look at a medical imaging. So what we've developed is an early detection test or medical test. And what we look at is the vascular changes in the retina. Because when you're sick, and you have some kind of the diseases that we monitor, like diabetes and hypertension, well, it actually affects the blood vessels first. And the neat thing about the eye is that you have the smallest blood vessels there, and also you have arteries and veins. So it's fairly easy to detect any of the changes in the microcirculation in the human body. So,
Andre, sorry, just the difference between an artery and a vein is one is sort of the blood going to the heart and one is coming from the heart. So you kind of see both pathways. Is that kind of the idea?
Yeah, that's it. It's the same system as your heart. So on one side, you pump the blood in, on the other side, it goes back out. But the two different veins have different functions. Although one pushes blood and the other one takes it back, they actually go through your entire body. And the smaller the blood vessels, the easier it is to detect certain different pathologies that the individual might have. So we're actually going after an unmet need. And the unmet need is really the accessibility of a very low cost medical test, okay, that can actually change the clinical outcomes for diabetics and people that suffer from cardiovascular diseases. So what we mean by that is a test that can be done in many, many locations at a very, very low cost price, below the $10 to $20 price range. So the value proposition, I like to show this to people. So from a patient perspective, what we do is very non-invasive. It's a standard off-the-shelf called a fundus camera. It takes a picture within a few seconds. Most optometrists in the world have a fundus camera in their physical stores. We work with the optometrists. We work with general practitioners, endocrinologists. We try to help them to do a better job monitoring their diabetic patients. Retina specialists, ophthalmologists, they love what we do because we can actually increase their focus on treatable cases. So meaning the referrals to these people are the good referral. The last thing an ophthalmologist or a retina specialist wants is a referral that's not good, meaning he's not going to be able to build his time to the government. We work with pharmaceutical companies such as Novartis, Bayer, and others. And what we do there is to increase visibility for their patient programs. What that means is we can increase their return on investment. So they pay us to run screening programs, and they actually get a 500% return on investment on these programs. Because when we find an individual that needs treatment, well, guess what? It's the treatment of the company that has sponsored the screening program. We haven't done insurance company just because last year we were going to do it and the COVID actually stopped everything, and insurance companies were they were very busy trying to deal with this. But what we want to show them is that we can increase their patient compliance to their actually to the things that diabetics need to be compliant with. Very, very important, because if you don't, then you increase the risk of the patient to being sick, and then there's more disbursement. We've been working with governments since the beginning, and that was our market early on. And the reason why we work with government is that they own hospitals and clinics that we were targeting. And what we do with the government is we show them how they can save money by doing screening and do the prevention instead of doing the reaction afterwards. So we were spending most of our time in government. What happened with the COVID, we actually opened up the optometry market, and we started adjusting our solution for optometrists. And I'll talk about that in the next few slides. But we've been very lucky, very fortunate that this market is very good for us. So we still have our regulatory approvals. So we're still an ISO company. We get recertified every 2 years, and we get a mid-year certification after the first year. We have Health Canada approval, FDA. We are HIPAA compliant for the security in the US, CE mark for Europe, Cofepris for Mexico, Saudi, FDA for Saudi Arabia, and we have some other ones from other countries like Costa Rica and so forth, Panama. So AI, it's more than a concept now. So we've applied our AI technology and studies of over 400,000 patients. So to get to where we are today, and our solution is in production today, we need to do at least 200,000 patients, and we did 400,000. But what we did different from a lot of the other competitors is we went into many different countries to make sure that our solution was working with all the different cultures around the world. So today, the medical applications we have, so retinopathy is any disease on the retina, and more focused right now on people that are diabetic is in production. We are working on a hypertension application. So this will be to monitor people that have hypertension. We hope to get it out in the next 3 or 4 months in the field. We're working on a AMD, so age-related macular degeneration. We also have a glaucoma project that we've announced with New Look in the Quebec government. So we're working on that. Actually, it started last week. We also have an application that can predict a stroke. And as you saw in the past, we announced that we are actually going into the clinical trial in the next few weeks. And we're doing this with a group in the US, the second largest hospital group in the US, called Common Spirits. So we're all set to go in the next 2 weeks. And then the last one that we will do after we do the stroke will be heart attack. And the reason why I have stroke and heart attack. Those are two different things, two different pathologies, and two separate specialists that monitor these things. So retinopathy is in production. Hypertension should be very soon. AMD and glaucoma will be coming, and also stroke. So these are additional revenue applications for us. So the way it works, pretty simple. A patient will come in front of into a store, a clinic, a hospital, and there's a fundus camera. And the patient, the operator will take a picture of the back of the eye. Takes a few seconds. The picture is sent to our server, and we actually do the analysis on our server. Once it's analyzed, we ship back the result to everybody who's on the chain there, the operator, the doctor, the specialist. We also keep the data for the next 7 years because we're ISO compliant. And we do all of this transaction here. By the time you take the picture and the two pictures are sent, there's a 4-second delay before the report comes back to the operator. So it's extremely fast in terms of turnaround and analysis. So what does it do? So the algorithms are actually capable of doing several things. So we do an automatic classification. That means that we actually look at the state of the retinopathy, and we actually classify it in 7 different types of classifiable results. We do the automatic detection of the anomalies, so the pathology that's there. And we also validate the lesions with a simplified grading sheet that the doctors are used to seeing, the ophthalmologists and so forth. And so the models are based on deep learning. So for whoever likes buzzwords of deep learning technology, and that's how we get our speed. With our existing algorithms, it's a little bit longer, but when you actually take it into the deep learning environment, it's much, much faster. Sensitivity, 94%, specificity, 88%. So this is better than a human being. The neat thing about this, it doesn't get tired. So this thing works 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And the results are less than 2 seconds per eye. So like I said, 4 seconds. Let me show you what we do. Oops. So I'm going to increase this. So the top picture that you see there is actually a retina picture from a fundus camera. So first thing we do is we locate the macula, so the darker red part on the right side of the screen. Then we have the optical nerve. So these are the nerves that go straight into your brain. And then we look at all the blood vessels. Once we have identified the blood vessels, then we segregate them in 2. Which ones are the arteries and which ones are the veins? Now, and then we do some other calculations. The reason why we do these calculations is that you want to monitor the disease and make sure you protect the optical nerve and the macula where you actually see. So the picture below now, if I put on the pathology, so that's the 3rd step. So we take the pathology that's in the picture, put it on top of the calculations here. You can see that this patient is very ill. And worse is that he has a pathology within the circle dotted line of the red dot there, the macula. Anything that's found inside of there is rushed automatically to the ophthalmologist. And because it gets very dangerous. Now, if any of this pathology gets onto your retina, well, there is no treatment, meaning that you will go blind. Okay? So important to understand that. If you don't do this on a yearly basis, if you're diabetic and you don't do this, this is what can happen to you. So one day you have normal vision, and the next day you'll wake up and you have one of these black spots in front of you. So that is a direct relationship to the picture I just showed you. So the black dot is pathology, so disease. It went inside that dotted line, and then it went onto your macula. At this stage, you will go blind, and there's absolutely no treatment. So if I show you back this image and you can see the circle, so you need to protect this environment. And that's what we do for our patients and for our clients. Make sure that this doesn't happen.
So what it does, just if you could go back, your not the doctor, your AI engine can identify, oh, things are getting risky. You better like adhere to your diabetic eating protocol and take your insulin better and things like that, so that you don't lose your vision, or it's kind of a red flag ahead of the event happening so that you can get ahead of it?
Well, there's many things with this. Okay, first of all, if you're diabetic, you've never had a picture taken of your retina, you should go right away. Okay, when I tell you we need to protect this little area here, it's because it's going to bring you to blindness. Now, all of this pathology that you see here actually doesn't hurt you. You don't feel it. And because you don't feel it, you don't know it's there. So once you identify this, there's treatment, number one. Number two, then the doctor will actually get you to change your diet, definitely. And both of those things, treatment and diet, will actually either stop. It will never cure what's there, but it will reduce it, or not reduce it, but it will stop the disease from spreading. So in the case up here where you see there's no disease, right? So this is a perfect patient with no disease. But here you can see all the pathology here and down here. So this patient here is severely affected by the disease and needs to take, action and treatment.
Yeah. I'm curious, with the deep learning, does the system get better over time, where it's sort of the doctors look at it and say, oh yeah, that's good, or no, they identified this little speck here, there was a false positive or negative, so that over time it becomes a more accurate and better system?
No, there's no AI that's automatically learning today. Does not exist. So what you do, and this, everybody does the same thing, is you actually retrain the engine. You re-optimize it with better input. In the old days, when this AI started and the deep learning, the buzzword is that you needed to go and get a lot of data, lots and lots of data. Well, actually today, that was a big mistake. Okay, you better have less data, but better data, more quality, meaning good pictures that are identified properly and that the disease is identified properly. Having a lot of data today is not going to work. We went that way, started. We didn't do a million analysis. We started with 2,000-3,000 patients, then we went up a little bit, but we had the best people to do the grading of these things. So meaning identifying the pathology on the image. That's where it lies. And that's where AI today changed it from the last 5 years. Doesn't need a lot of data. We need good data.
You need good teachers, as opposed to to teach it right the first time, as opposed to.
You got it. Yep.
Okay.
Okay, so quickly, I'm just going to show you what we do in the hypertension and how we actually detect that. So first thing, if you do have hypertension, it means that your blood vessels are getting clogged up somewhere. Okay, so what we do with the eye, I mean, you can't run an MRI and everybody, it's too expensive. So we do, by taking a picture of the retina, and these are retina pictures in front of you, we can look at, the first thing we look is tortuosity. So tortuosity is your blood vessels are supposed to be nice and straight when your blood pressure is at a normal state. As soon as your blood pressure goes higher, it actually puts a lot of pressure on the arteries and veins. And the smaller the blood vessels, the faster it reacts to this. That's why the eye is a perfect place to look at this. So tortuosity is the first thing. So you see these blood vessels on the right side, they're moving left, right, and center. So that's really bad. Second thing we look is also for retinopathy sign at the same time. But we look for specific signs in the retinopathy. We look at bleeding. Bleeding means that at the end of your arteries and veins, the artery has burst and starts bleeding. So that's very bad also for your retina. So that's another sign. Another thing that we do, and it's called a AVR ratio, so an artery vein ratio. The neat thing about this is it doesn't matter where you are in the world. As soon as you're 30 years old and over, your blood vessels in the eye, your arteries and veins are the same for everybody in the world. That you weigh 100 pounds, 500 pounds, Chinese, white Canadian, whatever, these blood vessels are the same size. So the reason why we calculate the AVR is if the arteries or the veins swell or they reduce in size, it's another sign that your medication that you're taking is not working. And you need to address that very rapidly with your doctor. If not, it will bring you into a stroke position. So
and is that a well-recognized diagnostic
Yes.
within the heart and stroke world?
Yeah. In the ophthalmology world, in the oncology world, endocrinology, they all know about this. And the only thing is, it's very hard to calculate. We take measurements like hundreds of times on each of the blood vessels. So if you got to do this manually, it's impossible. It'll take you too long to do it.
All right.
Okay, so these are some of the things that we're going to be implementing. Now, our program, we don't sell software, so it's a SaaS model, so meaning a software as a service. And the program's called Beat It in a Blink in English, and we have it in several languages around the world. So it's really a program for prevention of retinopathy for diabetics or non-diabetics. So the way we deploy, we have 4 ways to deploy. We can deploy the solution only, meaning just if the customer has a camera, a fundus camera, he doesn't need to buy another one. We'll interconnect to his camera. If he doesn't have one, we can actually provide one. If he needs a technician, we can provide the technician. And we also provide a mobile environment. So you see the dollar signs go higher as you go forward into the scale. We've done all of these 4 in different countries, and they work very, very well. So we're very flexible in terms of program.
I remember from when we first met, you were operating in Mexico and running the mobile systems with the vans and the trucks and so forth. And when you do that, are those in partnerships, or are you sort of renting the trucks and leasing them, or do you sort of license that out to a third party to kind of run that?
No, up to now we did it with our partner, like Novartis, for example. We had 4 vans in India running around all around India. So we did this with Novartis. So when I bought 4 vans, refurbished them. We bought some used van. We refurbished them, put Novartis and Diagnos on the side of the van, and we went to many hospitals and clinics in India. So it was a very successful program. In Mexico, we did the managed environment. So we went into 37 hospitals and we rotated the equipment, but we had our own technician, own camera. So this is when we were gathering all the data for our solution. So we went into the medical care in an upside down matter, if you want. We went to get our data first, and then we did the analysis, versus what they do today is they try to put their solutions together, then they go test it. So when we did all of that was to gather the data we needed to have the final product.
With them, you talk about a technician. Is it you need a trained technician to sort of manage it, or is this a system you could maybe sort of have a scope thing, put it in a Shoppers Drug Mart, the patient just goes up to it, takes a few photos, and it can be sort of a self-service model?
Yeah. For now, it's not, a lot of people tried to do that and they fail miserably because we provide a technician. The technician is just a normal technician, waiting minimum wage in Canada and the US. We train them. It takes only less than a day to train somebody to take nice pictures. A kiosk environment, the issue with that is if the patient doesn't listen to the things that he or she has to do, then the picture is no good. So again, the idea is to take a good picture once. So that way, when the picture is taken, it's the same picture that the specialist will see, the doctor will see. You don't take another picture in the referral process. Very, very important to have a good quality picture. So if you end up at the ophthalmologist, he doesn't have to take another picture. He takes the picture that was taken, at the first step.
All right, thank you.
So I'll go through the financials. So we don't have the financials in terms of detail yet, but we will have in the next, I would say next 60 days, we'll have financials. So what I did is I wanted to show the picture of where we are today. So, and I put them in some kind of order here. So in Canada, we've signed a group called New Look. They have 407 stores in Canada. The daily test we're going to do is about 10 tests per locations per day. And it'll be about $5 Canadian. So on a yearly basis, you're looking at around $6 million in revenue once we deploy the 407 sites. We started deploying last week. We have 10 sites. The 10 sites will be finished next week. So we're doing 10 sites. We're going to look at the results, make sure all the different paperwork is all lined up and the referrals, and then we're going to continue. So the idea here is to be in all the stores in the next 12 months. Maghrabi is a group of private hospitals in Saudi Arabia. It's a private group. They own 32 hospitals. Right now, we install in the first hospital, and we install in a very fashionable way. They're doing the second installation next week. So we charge about $5 Canadian also there, but we're going to do 50 per site because it's a hospital. It's a much larger medical group than a optometry store. We're going to do 50 a day. So it's a good potential for us. 2020 now is in the US. They have 65 sites, optometry sites. And they actually had to shut down a lot of those stores, and they're just reopening right now. The reason they shut down, they were in the worst states in the US, New York, California, and all that. So they had to stop many times. At one point, they shut down. They're actually restarting the stores right now as we speak.
This is COVID-related shutdowns.
All COVID-related, yeah.
Yeah.
Because of COVID, they had to shut down. Chaparral Medical Group, they've been a customer for 3 years. So they have we have 3 sites with them. They own 20 clinics. Again, they were going to deploy. COVID hit, and then everything stopped. Now we're talking about continuing. They just wanted to see the 4th wave here. And if everything goes well, by Christmas, we'll have another 2 or 3 more clinics installed. So we're doing about 25 patients a day there, and we charge $3 US a day per patient. So another $120,000 a year in these 3 sites. We just signed Opticalia. Opticalia is a franchisees group, franchisee of optometry stores. So if you want to open an optometry store, you can call Opticalia, and they will actually help you find a site, buy the equipment, do the setup, the training, turnkey environment. And they have 920 franchisee. So we started with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're now at number 7, and we hope it will continue. We're charging €3 per image. And again, it's an optometry environment, so we're putting 10 patients a day. So the potential there is very big if we can do all of that over the next 2 years.
And those 920 sites, that's all across Europe. And I'm sorry, I don't recognize that flag.
This one is in Colombia.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Oh, just because you had euros there.
Yes. Yeah, the head office is in Colombia, but they have a second head office in Mexico. They cover a lot of Latin America, and they're going into the US next year. So, but the 920 stores right now is all Latin America.
Gotcha.
Optica Central is in Costa Rica. So we signed them up. They have 53 optometry stores. So we did our first one. We're charging $350 US. And again, it's a little bit slow because of the pandemic, but at least they're moving forward, and we can see some significant progress there.
So these are all sites that are either medical or optical groups, and they would have this equipment and technicians trained already. So my guess is with all of these is this is just your only cost is, or the implementation is just the software, and they kind of cover the rest of it.
Yeah. So the cost to do an analysis of 2 eyes, so the left and right eye, is about 4 pennies today.
Yeah.
So the margins are extremely good. We can probably get it down to 3 pennies, per patient, but at 4 cents, we're fine, and the margins are very significant. That includes the analysis, the servers, and also the networking staff when we did our calculations for the 4 penny. And
do you have to install, like when you roll it out, because you install the software, do you have to like put a PC or a little computer box in between the optical machine and the network connection or whatever? Is there any upfront costs to install this?
No, the neat thing is all those cameras have a laptop attached to it, or some kind of tablet or laptop. We actually download the software to it, and we can train the technician at distance. To train a technician takes maybe an hour at the worst case. So we monitor the effectiveness of them taking pictures and all that. But all of these sites already own cameras. They already have technicians, so they know how to take pictures. So the neat thing about that is the training is fast.
And you charge the optical or the healthcare provider the $5-ish per test? Do they then mark that up and charge their clients that, or is that more of an value-added service? Come to us and we'll give you a quick diabetic sort of brain, heart health check while you're at it?
No, that's a very good question, Martin. So the answer to that question is no. They actually uplift this $5 cost. They increase it, and they actually do a specific test for the retina. They don't add it in their existing pre-test. Like in Canada, if you go to you have eyewear. So when you go see your optometrist, they'll do a pre-test. They call it the pre-test. So they have two choices. They can put the $5 in the pre-test. In this case, they want to actually do it separately because they want to test your retina. They want to test your retina, separately. So they'll charge probably anywhere between $15 and $20.
Okay, so it's a revenue and profit source for them. But I guess the converse side is the patient may say, I don't want to pay that extra money or something. So maybe not all clients will adopt it. Yeah,
maybe. One thing with the New Look group is we're actually trying to bring in all the diabetics to their stores. Now, today, they're not their clients. So if I can get more people into their stores, well, they have a higher chance of also selling them the eyewear. And eyewear is $400 per pair of glasses minimum. So the business case we did for all these optometry group is to show them the upside. It's not just on the test. Also, if you bring a new patient in and walk in, he's new, he buys from you, boom, you get an uplift. And the neat thing about this is once you start doing this, that patient or the client has to come back every year in your store. He can't go to Costco and he can't go on the internet to get this test. He has to come back where he did the test because now the optometrist controls the outcome.
All right. And is there value in, you get a snapshot of where we're at today, but then if you come back a year from now, you've got, it looked like this a year ago and it looks like this now.
That's
so
it.
Then you add value by, great, it hasn't progressed, or oh dear, it's still progressing. So you have to take your therapy and your behaviors a little more seriously.
Yeah, we actually look at the progression or regression, if there's any. And there's also an interconnection with the doctor. So when we roll out the hypertensive application, and by the way, that will be another $5, okay, for that test. Now the optometrist can now talk with the doctor and make sure that the patient gets the proper attention. Either you change the medication, it's not strong enough, or it's too strong, whatever. So at least the follow-up will be good. We can reduce the number of people having strokes and heart attacks with that.
Is there any chance, or what I'm sure you've thought of it, is let's say rolling it out to a Life Labs or like the medical diagnostics companies? When I go get a blood test, they send me to out here in Western Canada, Life Labs. If they have technicians that could be trained, could you roll it out to that so the doctor could prescribe, hey, you need one of these retinal scans for
Yeah, we're actually working with, we have many prospects, okay? I'll show you the next slide, okay?
All right.
And we have many prospects right now in terms of labs and also, private clinics and so forth. But I'm just gonna go through some of the prospects we have here. So we announced an MOU with EssilorLuxottica. A few weeks ago, they just acquired a very large group in Europe. And the group is called, I got a memory blank, they come back to me. Anyway, they will own 15,000 stores by the end of the year. So we signed the MOU. Inside the MOU, there's three things. So the MOU brings you into a contract negotiation, and we actually specify what we're negotiating. So right now we're negotiating the existing platform. They want us to do a specific development because they manufacture cameras also.
Yeah.
And thirdly, they want access to our future application that we're going to roll out. So, it's the group is called Grand Vision in Europe. Right.
And I guess just for if whoever doesn't know, EssilorLuxottica, I would guess they're almost a monopoly in the eyewear space. They're all the major brands of eyewear, and they have stores now, and so they could be, I guess, add all sorts of healthcare services with your thing. Another reason to come into their stores, if I'm sort of guessing that correctly.
Thing, yeah. They see the same thing as New Look and 2020 Now and all the other ones that are looking at us right now, where they see the benefit of actually they have the equipment there in the store. They might as well do it, and so they increase their number of medical tests. But they also can bring new people in their store and upsell on their eyewear. They understood this day one. LMC, they're a Canadian group. So these guys have 18 diabetic clinics across Canada, and they only do diabetics. So we've been in discussion since March last year, but the pandemic put everything on the ice. But we're now back at the table with them. Quest Diagnostics in the US, one of the very largest clinic groups in the US, own 300 clinics, to your point. So yes, they are looking at this test being something very easy for them to do. We actually are in we've signed a non-disclosure with the Saudi government. So we're going to see what we do there. So they have 500 clinics. They want to actually, they might want to automate with cameras to monitor their diabetics. And the diabetic rate in Saudi is about 35%. So 3 people out of 10 have diabetes there. UAE, same thing. We run a pilot and it went very well. So they're actually trying to get out of this pandemic mode. Panama, Mexico, same thing. Mexico, we did a lot of patients there. We did very large pilots. Again, if it wasn't for this virus, we'd be in a different state there, but everything is on hold. And FYI Doctor out west, so they own 256 stores in Canada. And we have other ones. So these are the ones that are closest to closing, but we have a lot of other ones also in the pipeline.
All right.
So I'm going to finish with this. The clinical trial for our stroke application with Common Spirit, so the second largest group in the US, they own 137 hospitals, over 1,000 clinics in 21 states. So we're going to do a phase 1, 50 patients. If everything is as we think it's going to be, then we're going to go for a full 1,000 patient analysis in Canada and US. And SLR could be our partner also in this. They'd like to have the outcome of this. So this is going to start in the next 2 weeks.
All right. I would guess it doesn't take too long to do 50 patients. Like you could do that in a week, it sounds like.
Well, we're going to be doing this in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and that's the stroke belt in the US. So we expect that won't take very long to get the 50 patients done. No, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And some days they get up to 10 patients a day coming in an ambulance. And so the idea is the patient will come in an ambulance or, by way of car, goes to emergency, they stabilize him. We take a picture of their retina, and then we monitor the signs that we showed you before. So if we're right, then we're going to go to the next phase and to do 1,000 patients.
Okay, so you're going to test the trial is structured where soon after someone's had a stroke, you're going to test their eyes and see what it looks like. And then you can identify what people who haven't had a stroke, their eyes look like, and then sort of compare how things have sort of progressed and what markers there are to show that you've had a stroke.
Yeah. Somebody has a stroke. It's not something that's happened overnight. It's something that it's been happening in your body for a long time to get to that point. So the markers are there. So we didn't invent the analysis. This is done by PhDs at Harvard and some other schools in the US and abroad. So they're the ones who actually see the connection between the blood vessels and the stroke and also the heart attack. But these markers have been growing inside of you for a while. Now, when you get the stroke, then we'll be able to see if those markers are there, yes or no, and at what stage they are. Because it's not going to change overnight. I mean, once you have your tortuosity, it doesn't go away in 24 hours. It takes years to get that stabilized.
Yeah. So what kind of FDA, or is it, if this is a pre-established identification marker, you're just trying to prove that your system correctly identifies it within whatever certain margin of error. You're not actually you don't have to do the underlying science to show that these markers are signs of stroke. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah. We just look at the result of those signs, okay, those parameters, tortuosity, AVR, and this, that. In the medical field, it's already known. They know that these things have to be analyzed and all that. FDA knows those things also. What we're doing is mechanizing the whole thing and make it work very fast. So again, this will be a new test, another $5 and so forth.
And do you have to submit this to the FDA for some sort of 510K approval process, or is it? It'll
be a 510K. It'll be on the 1,000 patients we're going to do.
Okay. And about how long do you figure, like for them to do the 1,000 patients and then to collect the data and submit it? Around when do you figure you would submit the data, and how long?
It will probably take 12 months to get everything done and approved. The FDA will fast track this thing. We already are talking to them, and they would love to get this in place tomorrow, but it takes time, So
Yeah.
we're going to be fast tracked by the FDA, we're told.
All right.
Okay.
That's exciting.
So I'm going to finish with this. So the retinopathy market is very big. We're talking, $8 billion, and it's going to grow and grow and grow. And the reason why it's going to grow, there is no solution. There's no treatment for diabetes yet. And on the cardiovascular side, it's enormous. Just stroke management on a yearly basis in the US, you're looking at $36 billion a year in stroke management costs directly. So worldwide, it's extremely big. So if we can get this done, we can save a lot of people from having these strokes, being in a wheelchair for the rest of their life or paralyzed and stuff like that. It's a very deadly thing that happened. So we have a board. So our chairman is Vincent Duhamel, who used to be the co-chairman of Flaire Capital here in Montreal. Reed McClellan, who's a Harvard teacher at the Harvard Medical School. Bob Dunn is a very senior businessman here in Montreal. We have Francis Bilido, who's has his PhD in virology, so he knows all about the viruses and so forth. So and we also have an advisory board, Neil Bressler, so he's the chief of the retina division. Jason Slachter in New York, who's a professor of ophthalmology at New York University. So I mean, we have a good crew helping us on the advisory side. We have other ones, but we're going to formalize a formal advisory board by adding more people here in Canada in the next few months. And I'll finish with this, my last slide. So we've been covered by an analyst. We didn't pay for the analysis and all that. And the fellow who did this did an extremely good job. He called all our competitors and put this into a report. And right now we have a target price of $1.55 because we've actually got the MOU from Essilor. And when we do get the agreement, I would think in the next 30 days, this now is sustainable. So we have an analyst report that is, I think, 40 pages long. Very well done.
I remember you mentioned competitors, just some headlines that Google was, I believe, using their big AI brains to look at retinopathy and so forth. Can you maybe just briefly talk about, like, this analyst talked about his competitors? What is the competitive landscape, and what kind of moats or barriers do you have where, like, what's patented so people can't, once you've sort of proven it, that they can't come in and kind of compete with you?
Yeah. So first question. So the analyst did call Google and had a discussion with them. Google never intended to try to go do this. Also, they failed miserably because the model they did, they went and made. They had pictures taken of the retina in the perfect setting, meaning in a dark room, close the lights and all this. They have perfect data. What happens when you go to the field? Well, you don't have that perfect setup. You have very sub-quality setup. We went to the sub-quality sites, got all our data from that. So we were able to build algorithms that are more robust than anybody in the field right now, including Google. So Google gave up, and in the report, Martin put the comments of the discussion he had with them. The other competitors are all private companies, very small. A lot of them are connected to a university. So we pretty much have two real competitors. One we never see, called IDX in the US. They were doing this, and they actually now they're doing dermatology. So they kind of let go the retinopathy, the back of the eye, to dermatology. And the other one is iNook in California. So they're connected to Berkeley University. And there's not a lot of competitors worldwide. We can put maybe 10 competitors. But there's like 1.6 billion diabetics to go and monitor. If you put the cardiovascular people in there, you're looking at a market of 10 billion people. So there's enough for everybody to enjoy life and do their own things in their countries and so forth. But we did a lot in many countries, and we're still, I think, number one. According to him, we still have the right solution at the right time, and we're in production. So we're not developing, we're in production. The other application development will be an add-on revenue for us.
Well, and considering you're talking with some of the biggest players in the eye care space, that's a good sign.
Yes. No, I mean, from the optometry side, I mean, when we turn around, we went to the private because they're all private. They actually really liked it, and they're very supportive of what we do. And now New Look, I mean, they're our best sales guys. Since we announced New Look, that we closed New Look, we've had now, groups from Europe, Fieldman in Germany, Uptick in France, and we have all kinds of people calling in to have a demo of the solution and understand the AI part.
Well, I would guess a lot of the smaller optical stores and so forth. Personally, I get my eyewear at Costco, and everybody, and then other like Walmart and whatever else. So anyone who's smaller, they're all trying to find value added services and things to sort of bring in their customers and charge more for things. So
but don't forget, an optometrist in Canada has a billing code with most of the provincial governments to monitor patients that are diabetic.
Right.
They haven't used it yet because they didn't have the system to actually do the interpretation for the retinopathy part, and that's where we come in and do it for them. And when we put a nice report in place, and they look very professional, and really it's not expensive at $5. It's less than a Starbucks coffee when you think of it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. For some serious medical diagnostics could be life-saving. That's pretty darn cheap.
Absolutely. So this is it for me.
All right. Actually, Andre, if you could you go back to that one slide where you talk about retinopathy, like you've got the 6 or 7 diseases where
applications.
Here we go. That's the one. So are all of these like an established way of looking at hypertension, AMD, glaucoma, and so forth? Like so you don't have to prove that science. You just have to prove that your system can identify that science.
That's it. That we can do it more specifically than a human being. We can do it without having the specialist there. For example, in an optometry store, if the optometrist is not there, you can still do the test. The technician will take the picture. It goes up to the service, analyze, and then if the optometrist is at home or in another store, can go into our web platform and look at the clients without him or her being there. And in the optometry world, there's a lot of women, so a lot of them have to take care of their kids and all that, but they'd like to be productive during the day. So we give them that productivity by giving them the access to the telemedicine platform.
All right. And so the retinopathy is proven and established and is getting rolled out. And then what are it's the stroke that would be sort of the next rollout of the technology once that gets FDA approval in a year?
We're going to roll out the ones in yellow there. So hypertension, AMD, and glaucoma. That's our next. We're gonna have those pretty much at the same time because we've been working on it for a while. Okay.
What needs to be done for those to be rolled out?
Well, example on the glaucoma side, we're actually coming in with a different way to look at in finding glaucoma. And just to let you know, there's a international contest right now with 522 organizations worldwide. And the challenge is they gave us 100 patients of data. So they gave us a fundus picture. So that's the one that you see here. And they gave us an OCT picture. So an OCT is a 3D view of the back of the eye, actually the membrane of the back of the eye. So it gives you about 256 pictures in one shot. And so the challenge is who can identify glaucoma the best in the world. And as of last week, we were #1. So the contest finishes next Wednesday.
All right.
So we'll see how we did, but I was happy to be in the top 10. And so this is pretty good. Last week we were #1 worldwide. The ones that they're very difficult to beat are the Chinese, because in China, the government gave all the data of all the patients to the companies. Here in Canada, you cannot get that. It's impossible. So the data we have to collect on our own. We could not get fundus pictures of any patients here in Canada. And so from a competitive point of view, we're far behind the progress that the Chinese are doing. except from a knowledge perspective, we're actually ahead of the curve than the Chinese. And this will be the proof in the pudding next Wednesday. So as of last week, we were number one in the world.
All right. So their data collection, they've got much more data, presumably high quality data to work with. But you seem to be, despite you don't have the same access to that data, you're at current rates, you're leading the charge.
That's it. So we'll have the final calculations next week.
All right.
So glaucoma, we have to finish that. AMD is already almost there. Hypertension is almost there too. So we're just looking for a little bit more data to test our application, and that's in process right now.
All right. And so this is all using the same software, the same, sorry, I forget the scope.
Same platform, yeah.
Yeah, the platform. So these are really, you can roll these out with just a software update.
Yes. But
right.
We also charge more. So if you want if you want a glaucoma test, you're gonna have to pay for it. If you want AMD, you pay for it. If you want hypertension, you pay for it. And stroke, definitely you're gonna have to pay for that.
Yep.
So we're gonna go from a $5 bill or $5 per patient to potentially $30, you know?
Yeah. Could you, just switching topics here, talk about your balance sheet and your burn rate or revenues, or kind of where you're at on that state of things?
Sure. So I'll go back to this slide here. So we have in terms of cash, so we have 1.1 million in the bank today. We have a Quebec loan, $2 million loan, no interest, repayment over 10 years. So if I draw down 100,000, I pay 10,000 a year back to them, no interest. This pays 50% of our sales and marketing efforts. Okay. In terms of actual revenue right now, we're actually working. We restarted our revenue in July, as we targeted, and we need to get to about $120,000 in revenue per month to start making money. So we have only 15 employees, and I can tell you that every month our revenues will go up slightly, but it's going to go up for the next 2 years with what we have already signed, excluding what is in the pipeline. So I hope to be cash flow positive by our fiscal year end.
And is that December, or when is your fiscal year end?
March 31st.
March 31st. Okay. And you think you've got sufficient cash on hand with the government loan subsidizing your sales and marketing that you can get to that sort of break-even point with the current financial situation?
Well, we don't intend to do financing right now, so we don't know what we're going to do at the end of the day, right? So so we're not stressed. We don't have a lot of debt. We have $125,000 of debt. We actually wanted to repay the fellow, and he said no. So we gave it to him at 6% interest. So we could pay it back today if we wanted to. So the idea here is we're still keeping our expenses low. We're still very, very conservative with the expenses. And right now, our full attention is on revenue and implementing these customers as fast as possible in a very high quality fashion.
All right. If there are any questions people want to type in, please type them in as we're wrapping up the end of this. Andre, that's been very good. I think it's been quite thorough. I'm not having any other questions come to my head, and I'm not seeing any other questions online here. So, Andre, why don't you make any final comments? And I actually, let's say from now through Christmas over the next 6 months, or maybe until you sort of hope to hit break even, what's the news flow we should be expecting? What types of, like, the confirmation of some of these deals in the pipeline, and what other sorts of things?
So you have our prospect list there. So we're working on closing the contracts with them. I think we've done a lot of press releases over the last 2 or 3 months, and we delivered everything that I told people I were going to do. So the next phase is really continuing our growth, getting more, signing up more clients and getting them ready for next year. This fourth wave is there, want it or not. It's a little bit difficult. It's not as deadly as the first one, but it's starting to hurt. So we're very conservative with the revenue side, because we want to make sure that we continue our deployments where we are. So It's going to be slow, but it's going to be, how would I say, it's sustainable for the next 10 years. That I can tell you.
All right. Well, that sounds good. All right, Andre, thank you very much for taking the time to talk with us and clearly explain the story and all the opportunities you have. That's very good. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Martin. Bye,
Right.
everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye. Talk again soon. Cheers.